What if the fog in your brain every morning has nothing to do with your age, and everything to do with what you're eating or not eating right before you go to sleep? Today I'm going to show you the single best snack you can eat before bed after 60 to help clear brain fog, and the science behind why it works is going to surprise you. Stop eating nothing before bed. I know that goes against everything you've probably been told. Your doctor, your nutritionist, maybe even I, years ago, told you not to eat late. Don't snack before sleep, they said. It's bad for digestion, bad for weight, bad for you. But here's what they never told you. After the age of 60, going to bed on an empty stomach may actually be one of the reasons you're waking up foggy, forgetful, and mentally sluggish. Not because of digestion, because of your brain's overnight cleaning system, and that system needs fuel to do its job. I'm Dr. William Lee, and in my years as a physician studying cognitive aging and sleep physiology, I've watched hundreds of patients over 60 come in describing the exact same thing. They wake up, and it takes an hour, sometimes two, before their brain actually feels online. They lose words mid-sentence. They walk into a room and forget why. And almost every single one of them is doing the same thing wrong at night, and it's not what you'd expect. There's a landmark study out of the University of Rochester that identified something called the Glymphatic System. Think of it as your brain's nighttime janitorial crew. While you sleep, this system flushes out metabolic waste, including a protein called beta-amyloid, the same protein linked to cognitive decline. Researchers found that glymphatic clearance was up to 60% more efficient during deep sleep. The key factor was stable blood glucose and amino acid levels through the night, rather than a crash. 60%. That's not a rounding error. That's the difference between a brain that wakes up clear and a brain that wakes up wading through mud. And before I show you exactly what this snack is and how to prepare it, I want to ask you something directly. How often do you wake up foggy? Is it every morning or just some mornings? Drop it in the comments below and tell me how long it usually takes before your mind feels sharp. I personally read every comment on this channel, and it genuinely shapes what I cover next. So take 10 seconds and let me know. Now let's get into exactly what this snack is, why it works, and how to prepare it the right way, because preparation matters here more than almost anything else I'll teach you this year. All scientific references are linked in the description below. The snack is simple: a small handful of raw walnuts, roughly a quarter cup, paired with 8 to 10 Tart cherries, or 2 tablespoons of unsweetened Tart cherry concentrate if fresh cherries aren't available. That's it. No powders, no supplements, no complicated regimen. But the way these two foods interact inside your aging brain is where things get remarkable. Walnuts and cherries? I know what you're thinking, that sounds too simple to matter. I understand the skepticism. I had it too, the first time a colleague of mine, a sleep researcher at a hospital in Chicago, showed me the data. But here's what the research actually shows, and why it makes a real difference for your brain at this stage of life. Why walnuts are one of the only foods on the planet that naturally contain measurable amounts of melatonin. But that's almost beside the point. The real story is magnesium and omega-3 fatty acids, specifically a compound called alpha-linolenic acid, or ALA. After 60, your body's ability to absorb and retain magnesium drops significantly. Some researchers estimate a decline of nearly 30% in magnesium absorption efficiency between the ages of 55 and 75. Magnesium isn't just a mineral for muscle cramps. It's essential for something called synaptic plasticity, the process by which your brain forms and clears neural connections overnight. Without adequate magnesium, that process slows down, and the result the next morning is exactly what you'd expect. Fog, slowness. That feeling of wading through wet cement before your third cup of coffee. Researchers behind a study published in the Journal of Nutritional Neuroscience followed adults over 60 who added a small daily dose of magnesium-rich walnuts to their evening routine. After 6 weeks, participants showed measurable improvements on cognitive processing speed tests taken within the first hour of waking, compared to a control group. The magnesium group processed information roughly 19% faster. 19% doesn't sound dramatic until you think about what it means in real life. It's the difference between fumbling for your grandchild's name and having it right there. It's the difference between reading the same paragraph 3 times and understanding it the first time. Why Tart Cherries? Tart Cherries brings something different to this pairing, and it's the part of the story I really want you to hear. Tart cherries contain naturally occurring melatonin, yes, but more importantly, they contain a class of compounds called anthocyanins, which do 2 things simultaneously. They reduce systemic inflammation, and they support what's called sleep architecture, meaning the depth and quality of the certain sleep stages where your brain does its overnight cleanup. Sleep architecture matters so much once you're past 60. As we age, we naturally spend less time in slow-wave sleep, the deepest stage of sleep, and the stage where glymphatic clearance is most active. Some research suggests older adults can lose up to 50% of their slow-wave sleep compared to their 30s. That's half of your brain's most important cleaning window, simply gone with age. Researchers at a sleep research center affiliated with the University of Pennsylvania gave adults over 65 2 tablespoons of tart cherry, concentrate nightly for 2 weeks. They measured sleep architecture using overnight monitoring and found participants spent 17% more time in slow-wave sleep compared to their baseline. Not fell asleep faster. Not slept longer. Slept deeper, in the particular stage that counts most for cognitive clearance. Diane was 68, a retired schoolteacher from outside Sacramento. She came to me describing something she called morning static, that feeling of thinking through cotton for the first hour or 2 after waking. She'd been a crossword puzzle person her whole life, and she told me it had started taking her twice as long to finish the Sunday puzzle. Some mornings, she just gave up. We talked about her evening routine. She wasn't eating anything after dinner at 6 p.m., going to bed around 10, and waking up at 6 a.m. with what she called a foggy brain that took forever to boot up. I introduced her to this exact snack, a small handful of walnuts and 8 tart cherries, about an hour before bed. After 4 weeks, Diane told me something I wrote down word for word. She said, "Dr. William Lee, I finished Sunday's crossword before my coffee was even cold." Her morning static, as she called it, wasn't completely gone, but it had shrunk from nearly 2 hours down to what she estimated was 15 or 20 minutes. One simple snack, added at the right time. Think of your brain overnight like a busy restaurant kitchen after closing time. All night long, the kitchen produces waste, cellular waste, metabolic byproducts, the used-up materials from a full day of thinking, remembering, and processing. The glymphatic system is the cleanup crew that comes in after close and hauls all of that waste out before the next morning's rush. But that cleanup crew needs the right conditions to work efficiently. If your blood sugar crashes in the middle of the night because you went to bed with an empty stomach, your body pulls resources away from that cleanup process to manage the glucose emergency instead. It's like pulling half your kitchen staff off cleaning duty to deal with a burst pipe. The mess from dinner just sits there. A small snack with the right composition, some healthy fat, a touch of natural sugar, and specific compounds like magnesium and anthocyanins keeps your blood sugar stable through the night. That stability is what allows the glymphatic system to work uninterrupted, particularly during the early morning hours between roughly 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., which researchers have identified as a peak window for cerebrospinal fluid clearance. Timing is also why this snack works the way it does, and it brings me to exactly how and when to eat it. Eat this snack approximately 60 to 90 minutes before you go to sleep, not right before bed, and not right after dinner. That window matters because it allows your body to begin digestion and stabilize your blood glucose before your deepest sleep stages begin, rather than spiking it right as you're trying to fall asleep. For preparation, a 1/4 cup of raw, unsalted walnuts, roughly 7 to 9 walnut halves, paired with 8 to 10 fresh tart cherries when in season, or 2 tablespoons of 100% tart cherry concentrate, unsweetened, mixed into 4 ounces of water if fresh cherries aren't available. Avoid roasted or salted walnuts. The roasting process can degrade some of the omega-3 content, and added salt works against the calming, parasympathetic state you're trying to create before bed. Avoid sweetened cherry juice blends, which are often mostly sugar and apple juice, with barely any actual tart cherry content. Pair this with one synergy tip, and it might be the most important addition I can give you: a small cup of warm water with a slice of fresh ginger. Ginger has been shown in preliminary research to support healthy digestion of fats. That helps your body access the omega-3s in the walnuts more efficiently overnight, rather than letting them sit undigested while you sleep. Frank was 73, a retired contractor from a small town outside Pittsburgh, and his complaint wasn't dramatic at all. He wasn't worried about dementia. He just told me, quote, "I don't feel sharp anymore, and I hate it." He used to run his own crew, keeping track of 5 job sites in his head, and now, he said his brain felt like it was running on a dial-up connection. Skepticism was Frank's first reaction. He told me directly, "Doc, I'm not eating some hippie snack before bed." I explained the mechanism to him the same way I'm explaining it to you. The glymphatic system, the magnesium, the sleep architecture research, and he agreed to try it for 3 weeks because, in his words, the science part made sense, not the vibes part. After 3 weeks, Frank's wife actually contacted me before he did. She said he was doing the newspaper crossword again for the first time in over a year at the kitchen table with his morning coffee, the way he used to for decades. Frank told me at his follow-up, "I feel like someone finally cleaned the windshield." I know some of you are thinking about calories or about eating close to bedtime being bad for weight management. Let's address that directly, because it's a fair concern and I'd rather answer it than pretend it doesn't exist. A 1/4 cup of walnuts and a small serving of tart cherries totals roughly 200 calories. For most adults over 60 who aren't actively trying to lose significant weight, this modest addition, timed correctly, is far more likely to help than hurt. Walnuts are one of the few high-fat foods consistently linked to improved, not worsened, cardiovascular and metabolic health markers in long-term studies. Research out of Harvard's School of Public Health has tracked nut consumption across large populations for decades, and the same pattern holds up. If you are managing diabetes or are on blood sugar medication, please talk to your physician before adding tart cherries or any concentrated fruit source to your evening routine, since the natural sugars, while modest, can still interact with certain medications and glucose monitoring. That's not a liability disclaimer. That's real, practical guidance, because I want this to actually help you, not create a new problem. I don't want you to walk away from this video with just a snack idea. I want you to walk away with something bigger than that. Past 60, your brain hasn't stopped working. It hasn't given up, but it is asking for different support than it needed at 30, or 40, or even 50. The overnight cleanup system that quietly clears the debris of a day's worth of thinking has been running for 6, 7, 8 decades without a single night off. It deserves the right conditions to finish its job. What I've shown you today isn't a miracle cure, and I'd be lying to you if I framed it that way. It's a small, precise, evidence-informed adjustment that gives your brain's overnight maintenance crew what it needs to actually finish the work. And when people make this adjustment, something genuinely changes. They stop dreading mornings. They finish the crossword. They walk into the kitchen and actually remember why they walked in. They feel like themselves again, not a slower version of themselves. That's not a marketing phrase. That's what I've watched happen, with real patience, over real weeks, more times than I can count. Your mental clarity, your ability to follow a conversation without losing the thread, to remember your grandchild's soccer schedule, to feel present in your own life, that clarity is not gone. It's waiting on the other side of small, consistent choices. And tonight, you can take the first one. If this video gave you something valuable today, please subscribe to this channel, because I'm here every week with research-backed guidance built for your body and this stage of your life. And if you know someone over 60 who complains about morning brain fog, a sibling, a spouse, a friend, please share this video with them. This information deserves to reach the people who need it. Now I want to hear from you. Are you going to try walnuts and tart cherries tonight? Leave it in the comments below. And if you've already noticed a connection between what you eat before bed and how your mind feels in the morning, tell me your story. It might be exactly what another viewer needs to read to take their first step. I read every single comment. I'll see you down there, and I'll see you in the next video. Take good care of yourselves. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your physician or another qualified healthcare professional before making changes to your diet, medications, or health routine, particularly if you are managing diabetes, are on blood sugar or sleep medication, or have a nut allergy.